Good Friday morning, everybody.
Hello, hello.
How are you? My name is Crystal Holloman. I'm a digital reporter here at News 10. I am joined by News 10 reporter Erin Bowling. Yes. How are you this beautiful Friday morning?
I'm good. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm good.
It's been a long week.
Yes, it has been a long week.
It's been a very long week.
Coming down the home stretch, looks like we've got, I'm not a meteorologist, but looks like we've got some nice weather out there today for us.
And what we're going to be talking about today is actually pretty weather related.
Yes.
So this is another episode of Beyond the Headlines, where one of our reporters sits down and talks a little bit about one of the stories that they recently did that was really impactful, maybe had a little bit more to the story that didn't quite make air because you guys work really hard. You get sometimes hours of footage that makes maybe 2 minutes to a newscast or online. So this is where we kind of take a deeper dive into some of the stories that were really impactful. And I know it seems like it's wild that it was 10 months ago.
Yeah.
But this story really impacted you when it first happened, and it was the tornado that hit Williamston and Weberville last August and really hit a memorable area of the Dietz family farm.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit, what is the Dietz, like why was this so important?
Yes. So a little kind of fun fact about me, I actually grew up in Williamston. The tornado, or the path of the tornado, kind of went along Noble Road. Mm-hmm. It's actually the road I grew up off of, so I definitely knew the area. When I first headed out there, I kind of just drove along Noble Road until I started seeing some damage, and when I saw that damage, I pulled the car over, I started knocking on doors, seeing how people were doing, the extent of the damage, and everybody kept telling me, you need to keep going, you need to turn onto Dietz Road, and you need to talk to the people right at that first farm.
And you knew right away who they were talking about.
So growing up in the area, I knew that on Dietz Road, that first farm on the left when you're coming off of Noble Road, is the Dietz family farm. Fittingly named on Dietz Road. But the Dietz family, they're actually very heavily involved in the 4-H community. I don't know as much anymore, but especially back in the day when their kids were younger and their kids were in 4-H. I know their mom would, kind of was in charge of like the goat, I guess, the goats of the like. So, for example, kids would bring their animals to the Dietz farm to get tips on how to show them, to get tips on how to take care of them, maybe get their hooves trimmed, maybe get their fur trimmed. So there's a whole bunch of different families in the Williamston and Weberville area who have visited the Dietz farm, know them very well. And so I kept stopping, at different houses as I was heading down Noble Road, and house after house after house told me, you need to go to the Dietz family farm.
Okay.
So that's where I went. And
when you got there?
When I walked up, I did not recognize the place. Because I had been there before. I grew up a 4-H kid. I had taken my goats to this farm when I was quite little. But
and this was an EF2 tornado, by the way.
Yeah.
So pretty significant.
They're a little bit, I guess, background of what their farm used to look like. They had a 2-story farmhouse, and then they had 3 different barns. I do not believe we are looking at video of the Dietz farm right now, but this is kind of in that similar area. Yeah, this is not their property, but it's in that Williamston kind of Weberville area. The tornado hit kind of right on the border between the two. But yeah, the Dietzes, they had 3 barns, their home. And all of that was pretty much destroyed, not totally flattened, but
damaged enough.
Like the foundation of the home was twisted, so the home was like a total loss. They had to demo it and rebuild. If you saw, last week, they're actually rebuilding their home right now. But I don't know if they had a, I guess, total like dollar amount for losses. But they lost, I believe, 5 cars, lots of farming equipment, lots of crops. I think they said about half of their crops, their home. The list kind of just goes on and on and on. But yeah, it was quite stark to see walking up that first day, just all of the damage. And they had just sheet metal wrapped around trees. It's pretty crazy.
And so when you think of a farm, there's a lot of people who work on a farm. There's literally a lot of hands that go into this, but there's also a lot of animals. Was anybody injured or anything like that?
Well, kind of crazy, actually. So I don't believe any of their animals were seriously injured, but their horse little like pasture, or had like a small barn area, that was pretty much taken away in the wind. Like their paddock was parts of it, it's like a metal bar made up of metal bars, and that was totally bent up, wrapped around trees, and all of their horses stayed right in that little area. They knew where they were supposed to be. They didn't run away. So they were able to kind of scrounge up some leftover pieces of fencing and make like a
some kind of pen to keep
yeah,
them,
a temporary pen to keep them, you know, on the property. They've have some cats. Those were all located. Their dogs were fine. But what is really kind of caught my attention about this story, and really at least taught me the importance of staying weather aware, is they didn't really know that this tornado was coming. They knew there was a severe thunderstorm. They were prepared for that. But when they got the alert on their phone for the tornado, at that exact same moment, their windows blew in.
Yeah, I have one of the quotes from Stephanie, who's a 5th-generation farmer, said there was no chance to make it to the basement. Glass started breaking and we were being pelted with water, debris, glass. So we all just kind of fell to the ground in the hallway right there in the opening.
Yeah.
So that is very, very scary to think. Like,
well, now they actually, last time I was there, they told me they've got some, you know, local news apps downloaded. The News 10 app being one of them, so they can keep in touch with our meteorologist and keep a good eye on, you know, the risk level as far as tornadoes go and severe thunderstorms go. So they've got the apps downloaded. You guys should definitely get the apps downloaded. I've got the apps downloaded because you want to know, you know, whether there's a tornado or not. You should, at least in my opinion, you should be prepared for whatever might come your way.
And even I think yesterday or the day before, we were getting alerts here while we were at work saying lightning's been detected in your area.
Yeah.
Everything like that. But so Williamston and Weberville both, very small, very tight-knit communities. Tell me about how the community helped this family once all this came down.
Yeah, so not too long after, and I believe our News 10's Riley Connell did this story, but the Williamston football team actually kind of showed out, and the coach had heard about what happened, and you know, it being August, they're kind of getting the football season underway. Yep. So they thought that'd be, one, a good workout, but two, a good way to help out the Dietz family by going on over there and helping them clear the fields out, because there was so much debris, metal, all different kinds of stuff in their field, and you could tell that those crops were pretty much flattened.
What were the crops, by the way?
There's corn.
Corn? Okay.
Corn, yeah. And so when they went through and they cleaned up as much as they could, but there's still, you know, the cornfields are huge and some of the debris is really small, and so they couldn't harvest anything until that debris was cleared, just because it's so dangerous for the equipment, like their tractor. If you get a piece of sheet metal in that cutter,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's not going to fare well for that piece of farming
that very
equipment.
Expensive farming equipment.
Exactly, super expensive. And so he said even now they're still finding chunks of debris in their field. They actually said a couple weeks ago they found a piece of their barn. I believe it was like a mile away from their home, and that was like within the last month.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know if you drive down 96, you still see the damage everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Along the highway.
Yeah.
What about, so community assistance, they came together and helped out. What about any other assistance that they've gotten? Have they gotten any help from, like, I know FEMA was here for months.
Yeah, FEMA was here, but they did not get any support from FEMA. They were denied FEMA assistance. They said it was something to do with their insurance, but unfortunately, their insurance did not keep pace with the cost of building. So Tim Dietz actually recommends, and this was in my story last week if you guys tuned in, but Tim Dietz recommends you keep your insurance policies, do like regular reviews, keep them up to date, because essentially what happened is, you know, their home was valued however many years ago what it was valued at, and then, you know, however many years down the line, their home is worth more because the supplies are worth more, it costs more to build now than today. And so they're definitely having to do a pretty significant downsize. Unfortunately, going from 2-level to 1-level, 3 barns to 2 barns, I believe.
Okay.
And one of them's, I don't even really know if I would say it's a barn. It's more just like a shelter for the horses.
Okay. Was that what we saw on that right here?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's up, and you can even, if you click on that clip again, you can kind of see this green fencing. I was talking about that earlier. It's all kind of mangled and bent up.
Okay.
That was the original pasture, or the, I guess, fencing that the horses were in when it kind of got sucked up and thrown around the yard, and but they were able to salvage.
There we go.
Quite a
Yeah, you
bit.
can see where it's
yeah,
bent.
it's all bent up.
Wow.
Yeah, but they, no FEMA assistance. Insurance didn't really pan out the way they had maybe hoped or expected. I believe they had replacement insurance, but again, it just didn't keep up or keep pace with the cost of building increasing.
What a good lesson to learn when you're trying to go through all of this stuff is maybe yearly. Is that what he said to do?
I don't know
Checks?
if he recommended any specific time frame of how often you should do it, but he did say especially now after COVID, because the cost of building and the cost of supplies increased so much after COVID that your home could potentially be, as far as insurance goes, worth more than it was before COVID. And depending on, how long it's been since you've done it, yeah, I think it might be a good idea.
And so how old was this farm? I don't think we touched on that yet.
Okay, so the Dietz family has a very rich history in the area, but the farm was technically first established, according to Tim Dietz, it's his family's, his side of the family is where the farm comes from. He says it was first established back in the 1830s.
Okay.
And, now about 6 generations later, Tim and Stephanie, they are living at the farm, taking care of the farm, but they've got 3 children who are around my age, actually. They are still pretty, especially their son is pretty heavily involved with the farm, and they're a very, very close family. When I was there doing the story, Rachel came over she's their youngest daughter, came over and was riding her horses and
so they're working on 6
out.
generations?
Yes, yeah. So Tim and Stephanie are the 5th, and then their children will be the 6th, and they're hoping to take it over. Yeah. Keep it going, keep the tradition, I guess, alive, keep the farm in the family.
Well, they've done such a great job so far. I mean, keeping anything going in a family that long is already such a great feat. So we'll continue to cover the rebuild. I know you will continue to keep tabs on the Dietz family and how they are rebuilding. I'm sure in about a couple months we're going to have a 1-year mark.
Yeah.
Which is so wild to think about, because I remember us being here the night of those tornadoes and how we were watching them go everywhere and seeing like where our families are and that the tornadoes were heading that way. We do want to say hi to Chris in East Lansing. Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Headlines. I think that is it. We both have a lot of interest in this story. We hope you do as well. If you're watching this on our website, we actually have a link to all of the previous stories of our coverage of the Dietz family farm from when we found out that it hit the farm up until last week's story on the rebuild. Yeah. So anything else you want to say about the story that you've been covering for now almost a year?
I don't know. I think we kind of covered it all, but the community definitely showed out, and they are, kind of endlessly grateful for all the support they've gotten. A community member, well, it's a kind of a family friend. I believe it's their sons, girlfriends, grandparents donated like a whole bunch of like tree saplings, because a lot of their trees were.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yep, you would have seen that in the video. But they had tree saplings donated to them. Right in the kind of immediate aftermath, a lot of people were coming by to just help clean up, pack up mementos, giving them food.
That's a big one.
Yeah, all different kinds of stuff. And I know they, for a brief time, stored their horses at somebody else's farm while they were kind of getting things back in operational, I guess, if you will. But yeah, they said it's a very long process recovering from this tornado, a lot more complicated than they anticipated. There was definitely some setbacks. They said they had made it like 3 months into the building process for their home, and then because of problems with insurance and stuff, they had to scrap that whole plan and start over with their housing plan. So it's just a longer process than anticipated, more complicated than they got
through the winter.
Yes.
That was a big part.
Yes, they got through the winter, and now they have this next winter coming up. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy story. But they always, every time I talk to them, they just want the community to know they're so endlessly grateful for all the support and help they've gotten through this past I guess 9 or 10 months. Yeah, 10 months now, I guess.
It's pretty close to 10 months. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Erin. We'll be back again next week with another reporter. Maybe it'll be Erin. Maybe it'll be Claudia.
Who knows?
We're not sure.
We'll see.
They'll sit down and talk more about one of the stories that they worked on that had a lot of impact on themselves or the community. So make sure you tune in. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always ask live. And we will see you next time on Beyond the Headlines.
Or wait, even if there a story you want to see on Behind the Headlines, is there a story you want to know more about?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Good
We
one.
can make it happen.
I know a lot of people were talking about Tanaya's story on the Make-A-Wish car recovery.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
A lot of people were asking more about that. So
Yeah.
always let us know on the comments or on Facebook what you want to see. And other than that, we'll be back again at 2 o'clock.